Hello, my most amazing artists. Today we're going to be creating a self-portrait or a picture of you using that old Sumi ink, but this time it's in a big old ink marker or ink bottle. Now all you got to do with that ink bottle is turn it over and it works just like a marker, so you don't squeeze it. But you want to make sure that you're working really big when you're drawing with these ink markers, because if you draw anything too teeny tiny, that ink marker will not go over top of your lines. It won't work because it's too big, so you got to make sure to draw very big, kind of like a cartoon. So only including the most important parts in your self-portrait, which is your head, your neck, your shoulders going off the page, your hair, eyebrows, eyes, nose, mouth, and maybe ears. All of those things will be on your table on a paper that you can look at as you're working if you forget all of the important parts. You want to try to make it look as much like you as possible, but you don't have to have teeny tiny details in there because you're drawing big. Now if you want to have something like an accessory, like a bow on top like I just tried, or maybe a hat, you could try that as long as it's super simple, kind of making yourself like a cartoon version of you. Then we're going to use our friend the color wheel again and chalk pastel. So I'm going to go ahead and make a challenge to myself to see if I can put out all those pastels on the color wheel. That way I have a reminder of which ones are analogous and which ones blend well together. Now I'm putting all of those out on those color wheels because I know what goes in between as well. So I know that my analogous colors are any neighbors on the color wheel. I can use up to 3 to blend together with my fingers. Now if you're in a separate section, then you can start using other colors, but when you're blending together you can use 3 neighbors, or you don't have to. You can also always add white to a color. That one doesn't count. You can always add white on top of those other 3 analogous colors. When I start with my chalk pastel today, I'm picking whatever area I want to start out with first, but I highly recommend the face on the inside, or working from top to bottom. I'm going to mix some warm colors together. So notice I'm leaving some space in between. I'm actually not doing the best job of coloring. At least it doesn't look like that right now. I'm kind of doing this pattern where I just do a little bit of scribbles, but it's all in the same direction. And I'm making sure that I keep my hands clean. So I am working only in the area, being mindful of where my hand is, not dragging it across my page, because this time my paper is white. Anything will show if I make a mistake, but you can always use a white pastel to try to touch it up a little bit. After I blend an area like my skin, which is my face, my ears, and my neck, and I think I forgot my ears. Hello, Miss Q, get going on those ears. After I color in those areas, I get to use something called Stay Flow liquid starch to make the chalk stay and not flow. It's called Stay Flow because it's going to make the chalk stay. So when I'm using Stay Flow, I just dip my finger in. Remember, only your peace fingers, your pointer and your middle finger, are able to dip into that Stay Flow, and it will help you rub the chalk together. It turns it into a type of paint. So that's really important that you're only blending analogous colors, otherwise you will be making brown. And we have a brown pastel, so please don't use brown or make brown on purpose. Alright, so I'm blending it together, but make sure that you only use a little bit. If you get too much of that liquid starch, or it's called Stay Flow, on there, then your paper might rip, it'll start to look yucky. Make sure you only use enough that will blend it and turn it into that paint. Then I'm going to move on to another color. So I don't really have to worry about that area that I just went over with to make it paintified. I just invented my own word. I turn it into paint, and then that makes it stay. Yes, it's still wet, but when it dries, I don't have to worry about all that messy chalk smearing. So basically what that Stay Flow does is makes it so I don't have to do any kind of spray to seal it on after school. So you are in charge of that this time by creating your chalk and making it turn into paint by adding that special magic liquid. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and go back and blend. Now notice that when I'm dipping my finger in, it does leave a little bit of the color that I had on my finger. You will be sharing these with your table, so please be mindful. If you need to and your hands are really messy, please wipe them off on a sponge or an art wipe before you dip them in that Stay Flow, so that it doesn't get all yucky and turn brown when your table all mixes your fingers in it. You will have a couple for each table to share, but still make sure you're keeping it pretty clean. We'll throw it out after class, we'll put them in the sink, we don't need to use them again. I've got plenty of that Stay Flow to go around today. Alright, then you'll notice that I wasn't working my best on my shirt. I didn't do a great job coloring, and it really I can notice. So make sure that you color in all your spaces before you blend, because it's very difficult to go back and add chalk after. Then in my background, I want to think about colors that are going to make my self-portrait pop. So I noticed that on my hair, I used a lot of cool colors. So in the background, I used more rainbowy, more warm colors to make it pop. If I were to have used the same color on my whole portrait, I wouldn't have been able to see it very well. When I'm done, I'm gonna have pretty much a big mess again. So I use my art wipes and my sponges at my table to clean my table, clean my hands, always making sure that if you have chalk mess on your paper, you just tap it off gently at the top of your table and then wipe it off instead of blowing it into the air or onto the ground. That's not cool. Then I make sure that my bag is sealed up, my table is wiped, and my painting is on the drying rack. Alright artists, have fun today.